The Washington, D.C. housing market plummets as DOGE lays off thousands of federal workers. That's been the narrative that has been going around over the past couple of days. That's the hot topic in the media right now. I've been getting a bunch of phone calls, emails, social media DMs from clients, past clients who are currently in the market thinking about either buying or selling a home in the DC area. And they want to know what's going on in the DC housing market and how are these layoffs affecting real estate. Not sure if I'm getting the pronunciation right. Is it Doge or is it Doge? Anyway, let's look at some actual data, because this is what I've noticed. As a country, we love a good story, right? It almost seems like we have this yearning and craving for sort of like a doomsday event to happen. So let's actually look over some data to see if it's actually doomsday for Washington, D.C. area real estate or not. Now, you've probably seen these images that I'm going to put up right here on the screen. These are screenshots of different maps of the DC area housing market, right? As you can see, there are a ton of properties listed for sale. I've read a few articles from different news sources saying that there are currently 8,000 homes for sale in the DC metro area, and 4,000 of those homes were listed in the last 30 days. And what's actually quite funny to me is these maps are of a very large geographical region. If you zoom into a lot of these maps, you can see a lot of these maps are zoomed out images showing houses for sale an hour away in Virginia, all the way into Washington, D.C. proper, which oftentimes can be a 40, 45, 50 mile radius. Of course, there are going to be a lot of homes for sale. I mean, what do you think? There are only going to be 100 homes for sale in a 50 mile radius? There are going to be thousands of homes. That's besides the point. I want you to take a close look at this image that I'm going to put up on the screen. This chart compares how many homes were listed in the first half of February of 2024, comparing that to the first half of February in 2025. Now, if I'm not mistaken, these DOGE layoffs commenced on the 12th of this month of February, just for context. So if we look at the numbers for 2024, we can see in the first half of February in 2024, there were 2,820 active listings on the market this time last year. Now, in 2025, currently, there are 2,829 homes listed for sale. So that's essentially a 0% increase year over year for active homes hitting the market during this specific period. And all these are counties in Virginia and Maryland that make up the greater DC region. And this chart was derived directly from the Bright MLS, which tracks every single home sale that occurs in our region. So any information you're seeing out there about this influx of homes hitting the market is just not true. And I'm a realtor, and if that was the case, trust me, I would be the first person to know. A lot of my clients who are currently in the housing market right now looking for homes, there hasn't been a blip of an increase in inventory because we're still battling over the little amount of inventory that exists in the market right now. So I personally haven't seen where this surplus of inventory all of a sudden has come from. And we also have the data to support that as well. And just keep this in mind, real estate does not operate like the stock market. When we have major events in our country, whether a new president gets elected or there's been some drastic change in policy, oftentimes the stock market, if Trump or Biden passes a certain policy, certain stocks might go up in 24 hours and certain stocks might go down because the stock market operates mostly on human emotion. Now, when it comes to real estate, it can take months to see any significant change from any policy that just got passed or a change in administration. I'll give you an example. When the market crashed in 2008, the great financial crisis, the market didn't crash in 2008 because of what happened in 2007. The market crashed in 2008 because of what happened in 2007, 2006, 2005, 2004, 2003, 2002. So it was a 5 or 6 year run of inefficiency in, real estate and lending practices that led up to the market crashing in 2008. So even if there's going to be some impact, which I do believe there's going to be, of these federal layoffs, it's not going to happen in 5 days or 6 days. Because today's the 17th, these layoffs started on the 12th or slightly before. You honestly mean to tell me you think we're going to see changes in home values in just 6 days? Real estate sales does not work like that. Because let's play up a scenario here. Even if a lot of federal workers who got laid off decided that they want to sell their homes, I mean, a house is not an asset you can just put on the market on a whim. A lot of clients that I've helped personally sell their properties, it takes at least 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 months to get the property in sale ready condition and also figure out where you're going to go. So a mass influx of homes hitting the market barely a few days after a policy got implemented is just not going to happen. Now, you might have also heard that the median home value in the DC area has plummeted by $100,000. Again, I personally don't know where this information is coming from, but I'm here to tell you that that is false. Again, let's play a hypothetical scenario. Let's assume that a lot of federal workers decided to sell their homes because unfortunately they're now out of jobs. In order for home prices to come down, these people would have to sell their homes. They would basically have to give away their homes for the median value to come down that drastically. And this would have to happen over a sustained period of time, not a few days. And here's the truth, actually. In Washington, D.C. proper, there are certain sectors of the market that have actually been softening from a price perspective. For example, the condo market in Washington, D.C. The condo market in DC has been, I'm not going to say it's been crashing, but it's been softening. Demand is way down from what it was pre-pandemic. But see, the thing is, nobody talks about this. When real estate is being discussed on a national level, nobody talks about the Washington, DC real estate market. The main markets that are always talked about are the Texas housing market, the California housing market, the Vegas housing market, the New York housing market. Nobody talks about the Washington, D.C. area real estate market on a national level. So now that we're having some turmoil in the nation's capital, now everyone's zooming in to the D.C. real estate market and they're seeing that prices are softening. But if you know anything about real estate, if you're an active buyer or seller in the D.C. real estate market or a realtor like myself, you know that prices in DC proper have been softening for the past 3-4 years. This is not anything new. Now, there's still certain segments of the DC market that are doing well, like the single family house market, right? So in DC, we're sort of unique where we don't have just one singular housing market. We have the condo market, we have the single family market, we have the townhome market. And all these markets operate at completely different paces. And then you have to further break that down by neighborhood, right? Certain neighborhoods in DC are still super competitive, homes selling for over asking price. They might not receive 20 offers like what we saw during the pandemic era of 2020 to early 2022, but it might be 5-6 offers maybe, which is still a very competitive market. So the point I'm stressing here is there's been somewhat of a correction going on in DC for multiple years now. This is not anything new. And something else you have to keep in mind is a lot of federal workers who are losing their jobs are still getting paid until September. Now, a lot of people have options as opposed to just panicking and listing their homes the next day after they got laid off. Now, am I saying no one's listing their homes right now because of job loss? Absolutely not. But I just don't think it's enough to make a dent in the housing market like these articles are saying. Because when most people lose their jobs, they just don't sell their homes the next day, right? Especially if it's a 2-family household, one person might pick up the entire expense for maybe 2, 3, or 4 months while the other party tries to find another job. If it's one person, they might live off savings for a few months until they decide, I can't make these mortgage payments anymore. And then they decide to sell. Or what a lot of people do, especially people who have these ridiculously low 2 and 3% interest rates that they were able to get before rates went up, they'll just rent their homes out and have a tenant cover the mortgage. Like a lot of people aren't just going to give up their homes just because, because there are a lot of people out there that I've personally spoken to who've told me, listen, I'm never selling my house. I have a 2.75 interest rate. I would rather die than to sell this thing. And they shouldn't. I don't blame them. 2.75, 3% interest rates. I don't think you guys understand how good this is because that was a once in a lifetime thing. We've only seen interest rates that low once in the past 400 years. I want you to think about that. So it's most likely not going to happen again anytime soon. So again, the point I'm stressing here is before people panic and put their homes on the market for sale, there are other avenues that they're probably going to explore for maybe 3 to 6 months before they decide to sell their homes. So I'm just tying this back into all these articles saying that there's been this surge in homes and prices are plummeting by $100,000 on average. I just don't see how it's possible. Now, let me be the first to say this. I strongly believe that in the next 6 to 12 months, we are going to see some sort of effect of these layoffs on the DC area housing market. Do I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath in the DC area? I don't think so, because according to the U.S. Office of Personnel and Management, federal employees only make up 9% of the DC area's workforce. I mean, we have so many other strong industries like legal services, cybersecurity, tourism, hospitality, media, journalism, and the list goes on. So federal employees only consist of 9% of the workforce. So yes, I do think the real estate market might be affected from maybe a demand standpoint, because a lot of these federal employees who were maybe in the housing market to buy homes might possibly put off their home search because of just the sheer uncertainty of what's going on. Or maybe they might start looking in different states and cities for opportunities outside of the government, and they no longer need to be in the DC area, which is going to slightly bring down demand. And I did see some data that the average salary of a federal worker in DC is about $106,000. And I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, I don't think a large demographic of people making $106,000 is really what's propping up the Washington, D.C. area real estate market. Because as of 2025, the average salary to afford an entry-level home, which is around $450,000, is about $120,000. And the median price for a home in Washington, D.C. is well over $600,000. Something's just not adding up there. Now, do you have people who make more than that working for the federal government? Absolutely. But I'm just going off averages in this instance. Now, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge those directly impacted by the layoffs. It's an incredible, tough, and uncertain time for a lot of people. And, just losing a job that you've built your entire life and existence around can be extremely challenging. So I hope you all will be able to bounce back quickly and utilize the skills that you've learned in the federal government to propel you forward in maybe another role within the government, or to propel you forward in a different role. So if you had plans on selling a home in the DC area, trust me, there's still a ton of home buyers out there looking to purchase property. As a matter of fact, I just got off the phone with a listing agent. I made an offer for a home on behalf of my client just yesterday. This was in Montgomery County, Maryland, and they had 12 offers on the table. And we had to offer significantly over the asking price to even be considered to win the bid. So if you had plans on selling a home, from the data we have right now, I would say proceed as planned. And until a few months go by and we start getting new data, I'll be the first one to update you and let you know what's going on in the marketplace. Also, if you're in the financial position to buy a home and you can afford the payments, you can afford the down payment, you can afford the moving costs, hey, I would say proceed as planned, right? There are actually deals to be made in the marketplace if you know where to look and in certain parts of the DC area. And if you need help with doing any of that, buying or selling a home, my contact details are below in the description and pinned in the comments. You can always feel free to reach out to me if you wanted an accurate pulse of what's actually going on in the DC real estate market and not in the headlines. Catch you in the next video.